You as souls dabbling in this beautiful opportunity, you always fight with the idea that you're not enough, that you're not getting it, that you're not going fast enough, that you haven't managed it well enough, that you screw up, that you're broken or wrong. And it's the fondest wish we hold for you that you take ownership of the truth, which is the completeness of you seeking. The completeness of you desiring even more. It's such an amazing idea because you're trained so deeply to believe that there's not enough and that you are not enough. And those combinations of factors lead you to feel lack, which is one of the most negative emotional states you can be in the human form. It is the exact opposite of your soul's knowing. Your soul knows nothing but abundance, nothing but infinity, nothing but immortality, nothing but all is possible. Just at some point I'll get around to it. This is sort of the soul's perspective. Everything's possible, I just haven't quite gotten around to the things that I haven't quite gotten around to yet. Someday that'll be where I'll go, but it's not there yet. And that isn't because it's taken away from me, it's because it hasn't yet been the priority for me. How we wish that we could just make magic fingers and have you all recall that truth. Even just for a short moment, because even in that little brief window of time, it would help you to remember it as you move forward. But of course, that's not the way everything is set up, is it? Everything's set up in a way that gives you an opportunity to come to that knowing yourself. That might be the ultimate example of the free will environment, is that everything has given you the opportunity to come to the knowing of the completeness of you that still seeks. This is likely to be the best definition of the experience and experiment of free will zone that we could come up with at this time. So how is it then that this perspective from your soul can be incorporated? How could you get that taste in some other fashion? Just breathe a little bit. You know, we're after last week, a deeper level of the truth of you has become available to you by sharing the information about how this entire earth experience was set up and the aborted attempt of the souls to enter the physical. By sharing that, what we've done is we've ripped off a band-aid you didn't know was there. And that sore that's underneath the band-aid now can be actually treated by you with your intention, can actually be adjusted, can actually be paid attention to. So when we come tonight to you, we're operating on a level that's far deeper than we've ever operated on before. And it's very subtle. And it gives the opportunity for quiet acknowledgement and contemplation. It's accessing the point that says the completeness of you is present to you. Now, in the human form, one of the most profound ways to acknowledge this truth is to be nice to yourself. Just to be nice to yourself. One of the most profound sayings you have is, be patient with me, God isn't through with me yet. But, of course, we'd never stick with that wording. It's, I'm patient with me because I'm not through with me yet. And that's really the profound invitation, the quiet, subtle, loving invitation. That's the way that you take all of this information that's been assembled for your exploration and you engage with it from the human perspective. I am complete, yet I seek, and I am patient with me in the process. Most, if not all of you, would address yourselves as a loving being, someone who's has tender feelings for others, who wants to believe that love and tenderness exists on the planet, that there's an abundance of that positivity available. Yet, we wonder how frequently you take yourself out of the equation for that love to be addressed to you. If you don't feel that you are good enough, then you are denying the truth of who you are. There has to be within you a baseline that you start with. And the baseline you start with is, I'm a soul, I'm infinite and immortal, I'm participating in a free will zone experience. To do that, I have a body which gives me all kinds of opportunities for triggers and other experiences, and how I handle those triggers and experiences using consciousness determines how I create the next moment I'll experience. Nowhere in there is there any call for being mean to yourself. Nowhere in there is there any call for judging yourself. You can evaluate, you can make decisions, you can set boundaries, you can have preferences, of course. But nowhere in there is a place where you get to say, and I'm awful. Last week it came up after the meeting that the Elohim were talking in a way that indicated they fucked up, as if they were ashamed or embarrassed. Veronica was crying. Some of you may have noticed. So it's like, what's going on? The reason she was crying is that she was amazed that the Elohim can say, we fucked up, and not be ashamed. Not be embarrassed. Not feel like they did anything wrong. Was it awkward? That's how you would describe it. Was there an opportunity to feel shame? That's how you would describe it. That's how the physicality would experience it. But the truth of the moment was there was no need for shame. There was no need for embarrassment. Those don't exist. Because there's a completion on the soul level that engages with other completion. And there's no shame in that. There's only seeking. So one could say that the quote, fuck up, was just another opportunity for growth. Personality selves could say it was an opportunity for shame. And there we have it. Living from your soul's perspective doesn't include opportunities for shame. Living from your soul's perspective only includes opportunities for growth. As we work with you through all these different layers of living from your soul's perspective, we will have many opportunities to discuss things like this, where it's just one little place that you go, oh, now it's this way instead of that way. Things that are no longer on the table for consideration. Things that are no longer part of the dynamic that you'll willingly participate in. The very first one, and the most important, is you don't get to be mean to yourself. And that primarily starts with the word shame. You don't get to shame yourself.